There are betrayals you see coming. You brace for them, prepare your heart, convince yourself you'll be fine. And then there are the betrayals that walk in the door with your bloodline and steal the one person you thought would stand by you forever. That was my story. But trust me, this isn't a sob story. It's a full circle moment, and I'm here to tell it all. 10 years ago, I was engaged to David. We met in college. He was studying law. I was finishing my degree in graphic design and psychology. It was one of those slow-burn friends-to-lovers situations. We supported each other through exams, heartbreaks, internships, and early job struggles. He was calm, calculated, dependable, exactly what I thought I needed. And I was happy. Not fireworks every day kind of happy, but a steady, comforting kind of happy. And then came Isabella, my younger sister. She was the opposite of me in nearly every way. Where I was introverted, she was loud. Where I was thoughtful, she was impulsive. And where I worked hard to build trust, she expected loyalty without earning it. But still, we were brothers, or so I believed. The first time I noticed something strange was the night I invited them both over for dinner. David had just passed the bar exam. Isabella showed up in a tight dress, extra makeup, laughing just a little too loud at his jokes. I told myself I was being paranoid. But paranoia has a way of turning into gut instinct. 2 weeks later, I came home early from a meeting and found them in my apartment, alone. Isabella's hand on his chest, his face too close to hers. The way they sprang apart when I walked in told me everything I needed to know. I didn't scream, didn't throw anything. I just looked at them, turned around, and left. That night, I packed a bag and stayed at a friend's place. David tried calling. So did Isabella. I didn't answer. There are moments in life where silence speaks louder than any words could. This was one of them. They didn't deny it. 3 weeks later, Isabella posted a photo of them together on social media. Caption, "Found what I deserved." The comments were full of hearts and fake congratulations, and I sat there staring at the screen, wondering how I became the villain in their fairy tale. The next 2 years were blurry. I threw myself into work, freelance gigs, nonprofit campaigns, building a reputation from the ground up. I learned how to navigate life on my own again, without trust, without expectation, and eventually without bitterness. By year 3, I barely thought about them anymore. David and Isabella got married. I didn't attend, obviously. Mom called and cried about it, saying, "I wish things could have been different." So did I, but not enough to go back. Then when I was 36, I met John. It wasn't planned. I was at a community arts fundraiser helping with stage setup when someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "That lighting's going to give the speaker a migraine." I turned, half ready to roll my eyes, but there he was. Tall, neatly dressed, calm smile, a clipboard in one hand, a coffee in the other. "I'm John," he said. "You're Lamar, right? The graphic guy?" "Graphic designer," I corrected. He grinned. "Even better." He offered me the coffee he'd just bought for himself. I refused. He insisted. We sat on a bench after the event and talked for an hour straight. He ran a local youth program and had just published a children's book. He was smart, thoughtful, patient, and he didn't flinch when I told him about my past. He just said, "That wasn't your fault and it's not your future." That line? It stayed with me. A year later, we were married. We didn't do anything big. Just us, a few close friends, and my mom, who cried more than she did at Isabella's wedding, if I'm being honest. By then, John and I had adopted Lily. She was 6 years old, bright as the sun, and had an imagination big enough to fill 3 lifetimes. We found her through a foster-to-adopt program, and the first time she called me Dad, I cried so hard I had to pull over on the highway. That's the thing about healing. It sneaks up on you. And sometimes, it shows up wearing sparkly sneakers and asking if she can draw you riding a dinosaur. Lily loved art. Loved it so much she begged me to let her start a YouTube channel to share her masterpieces. I helped her design the logo, taught her how to hold the phone steady, and built her a little background with fairy lights and canvas paintings. John managed the uploads, and just like that, Art with Lily was born. What we didn't expect was for the channel to blow up. One of her videos, her drawing a unicorn robot while explaining what kindness means, went viral. Overnight, she gained thousands of subscribers, and suddenly Lily had fans. Real fans? With that came attention, and with attention came Isabella. It started with a comment. One of Lily's videos had just hit 80,000 views, her painting a jellyfish while explaining why hugs make people happy. The comments section was full of love, except one. "That kid looks a lot like someone I know. Interesting how some people reinvent themselves after being left behind." The username? Bella Luxmom. I stared at the screen. Isabella. I hadn't heard from her in years. No texts, no family dinners, not even a birthday emoji. But here she was, lurking in the comments section of a 6-year-old's watercolor tutorial. At first, I ignored it. Then she emailed me. "Subject, let's catch up?" Body. Saw your daughter's video. She's adorable. You always wanted kids, right? Would love to see you sometime. Maybe Lily can meet her cousins. I showed John the message. He read it once, then again. Then looked at me and said, "Is this something you want to do?" I shook my head. "Not particularly." He nodded. "Then you don't owe her a thing." Still, something about it itched under my skin. Not guilt. Just curiosity. I agreed to meet her. Neutral location. Outdoor cafe. No Lily. We hadn't seen each other face to face in nearly a decade. She showed up dressed like a lifestyle influencer. Oversized sunglasses, chunky heels, a tote bag with her initials embroidered on the side. But her face? Different. A little tighter, a little harder. We ordered drinks. She leaned in and said, "So, you married?" "Yep," I said simply. "And Lily?" "Our daughter." She blinked. "Biological?" "Not that it matters, but no, we adopted her." She nodded slowly. "Interesting," she said. "I always thought you'd end up alone." There it was. The real reason she came. Not to reconnect. Not to apologize. But to compare. To measure. To win. I sipped my drink. "You married David. Guess we both moved on." She smirked. "Well, kind of. We're actually separated." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She waved her hand dramatically. "It's been messy. He was never good with responsibility, but he was fun. For a while." There was no sadness in her voice, no regret. Just calculation. Then she added, "So who's the lucky man?" I showed her a photo of John and Lily, smiling in the backyard, faces covered in flour from baking cookies. She stared at the screen longer than I expected. "That's your husband?" she asked. "Yes." "And he's brilliant, compassionate, runs his own literacy foundation, and makes the best pancakes on the planet." She didn't laugh, just sat back and said, "Wow, then you really traded up." We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then she tried again. "You know," she said, "I've been thinking of starting a parenting channel. You and Lily blew up so fast, I figured maybe we could collaborate." I blinked. "You're serious?" "Totally. I mean, people eat up sibling content. Estranged aunt meets niece for first time. We'd trend immediately." I stared at her. "That's not going to happen." She tilted her head. "Why not?" "Because this isn't content to me. It's my family." She scoffed. "Come on, it's not like I'm trying to take over." I leaned forward. "You already did that, once, and I survived it. But Lily, she doesn't need this chaos in her life." She rolled her eyes. "You're still so dramatic, Lamar." I stood. This was a mistake. As I walked away, she called after me. "Enjoy it while it lasts. People lose interest fast." I didn't respond, didn't look back. Some things don't deserve closure. Back home, John and Lily were in the kitchen, making popcorn and trying to turn it blue with food coloring. Lily squealed, "Dad, it looks like mold!" I burst out laughing. John looked up. "You okay?" I nodded. "More than okay." He came over, wiped flour off my cheek and said, "She's not getting in, is she?" "Not a chance." "Good," he said, pulling me into a hug. And just like that, the last bit of power she had over me vanished. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. From David. "Lamar, I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to say thank you. Thank you for not ruining me when you had the chance. Thank you for showing Isabella the version of love I never could give her. And thank you for walking away when I was too cowardly to tell the truth. I wish you and your family peace." I folded the letter and slid it into a drawer, not because I forgave him, but because I no longer needed to. Life moved on. Lily's channel kept growing. John's foundation launched a national reading program. I was invited to speak on a parenting panel. And one night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she asked, "Dad, are you glad you married Papa?" I smiled. More than anything. She paused. "Even though that lady with the sunglasses was mean to you?" I froze. "You saw her?" "She commented on my painting video. She said you used to be boring." I felt my chest tighten. "And what did you think about that?" She giggled. "That she's silly. You're the most not boring person I know." I kissed her forehead, then said, "Don't let people who don't know your heart tell your story." She nodded sleepily, and I whispered, "And always use more glitter." She laughed, and I knew we were okay. It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon. The local museum was hosting a family arts event, and they had invited Lily to do a live painting demo as part of their Youth Spotlight series. She was thrilled, wore her sparkly tutu, practiced her "Hello, everyone" 20 times. John helped her load her easel and watercolors into the car, while I packed snacks and backup clothes, just in case glitter explosions happened. We arrived early, sat up near the front, and Lily beamed like she owned the building. And honestly, she did, at least for the day. The event started. Crowds came. People clapped. Lily introduced herself into the mic with a proud, "Hi, I'm Lily, and I love to paint feelings." Everything was perfect, until I saw her, Isabella, standing near the back, arms crossed, sunglasses on, indoors. Of course, she hadn't RSVP'd, wasn't on the list. But she was there, and I knew it wasn't for Lily. It was for attention. I tried to focus on Lily's presentation. She was explaining how blue reminded her of bedtime stories and how yellow made her feel like warm toast. But Isabella wasn't subtle. She moved up front, sat directly across from me, and at one point she even raised her hand. I tensed. The host, unaware, handed her the mic, and that's when it happened. "So," Isabella said, loud and smiley, "I just have a question for little Lily. Do you ever wonder where your real family is? Like your real aunts and cousins?" The room went quiet. Lily blinked. The host looked confused. I stood up, ready to shut it down. "But Lily?" She looked at Isabella and said, "I don't know who you are, but my real family is here." She pointed at me. Then John. Then the crowd clapped. Yes, clapped. And Isabella? She went red, stammered something about just trying to support, then got up and walked out. Fast. Later, outside, she cornered me near the parking lot. "You taught her to say that," she hissed. I shook my head. "She said what she believes. She humiliated me." "You did that all by yourself." Her face twisted. "She's a kid. She doesn't understand blood." I stepped closer. "She understands love, respect, consistency, things you keep confusing with genetics." She stared at me, then said, "You think you've won, huh?" I looked at my family standing by the car, laughing, waiting for me. And I said, "I don't think, I know." That night, we celebrated Lily's big day with chocolate cake and popcorn on the couch. She curled up between us and whispered, "Thanks for letting me say what I needed." I kissed the top of her head. John wrapped us both in a blanket. And I realized it didn't matter who tried to rewrite my story. I had already written the best chapters. With them. A week later, I got an email from the museum director. They were starting a new kids' art mentorship program and wanted me to help design it. "Lily inspired us," they wrote. "We want more kids to feel that kind of creative freedom and confidence." I forwarded it to John with one word, yes. Meanwhile, Isabella went quiet again. No comments, no emails, no passive-aggressive photos, just silence. I heard from a cousin that she and David had finalized their divorce. He'd moved to another state. She stayed behind with 2 kids and a pile of debt. And for a moment I felt not pity, but peace, because I finally understood. She never took anything from me. She just delayed my journey towards something better. 2 months passed. Summer turned into fall. Lily started 2nd grade, proudly telling her teacher she had 2 dads and 1 glitter dragon backpack. John launched a reading initiative at the library, and I kept mentoring kids through the museum art program. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was ours, and it was solid. Then one afternoon, I received a letter. Yes, a real one. Handwritten. No return address. But the cursive was unmistakable. "Isabella." I hesitated, then opened it. "Lamar, I've rewritten this a dozen times, deleted versions, cried over drafts, so I'm just going to say it plain. I'm sorry. I was cruel. Not just when I took David, but every time I tried to pretend it didn't matter. Every smug smile, every comment, every time I used Lily's success as a mirror for my own failures. I see it now. You didn't deserve any of that. I've lost a lot lately. My marriage, my job, some friends, and for the first time I realized it wasn't all bad luck. Some of it was me. You always tried to be better, to build, to love fully. I mocked that because I didn't understand it, but now I do. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope you know you didn't lose me. I lost you, and that's on me. With respect, Isabella. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and slid it into a drawer beside David's old apology. 2 ghosts, 2 pasts, filed away. Not because I was erasing them, but because they no longer defined me. That evening I told John. He listened in silence, then said, "How do you feel?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Lighter." He smiled. "Then that's enough." A few weeks later, we ran into Isabella at a farmer's market. It wasn't planned. She was with her 2 kids, holding a basket of apples. She looked smaller, not broken, just softened. She froze when she saw us. Then Lily, always the bold one, waved. "Hi, lady from the art show." Isabella chuckled. "Hi, Lily." John gave her a small nod. She returned it. I stepped closer, said, "Thanks for the letter." She swallowed. "Thank you for reading it." We stood there in awkward silence. Then Lily broke it. "Do you like strawberries?" Isabella blinked. "Yes." "Cool," Lily said, pulling one from her basket and handing it over. "This one's weird looking. You can have it." We all laughed. And in that moment, I saw something new. Not reconciliation. Not reunion. Just release. Later that night, Lily asked, "Is she our family?" John looked at me. I said, "She's someone we used to love, and maybe still do, in a different way now." Lily nodded. "Okay, That's like old favorite songs. You don't play them every day, but you don't forget the words. I smiled. Exactly. So here's what I've learned. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up when it matters. It's who sees your messy parts and doesn't flinch. It's who laughs with you when you burn pancakes and cries with you when you lose faith and still believes in you anyway. David wasn't the one. Isabella wasn't the villain. They were both chapters, necessary ones. But John, Lily, they're my story now. And it's the best one I've ever told. I'm Lamar Odom, and this is how I won. Not by revenge, but by rising,